Hello, friends, and welcome to Civil War Rarities. We thank you for joining us, and we kindly ask you to please share, like, and subscribe to help grow our channel. Now, on to the show.
Hey, hello everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm currently enjoying this beautiful day at Nathan Bedford Forrest boyhood home in Chapel Hill, Tennessee. 24th Annual Forrest Homecoming and Southern Heritage Festival. Let's go take a look and let's learn a little bit more about this unique house.
Rebel Roots, an exploration into the boyhood home of Confederate Lieutenant General Nathan Bedford Forrest. Welcome, friends. Today we are taking a journey back in time, stepping off the modern pavement and plunging into the deep, rugged frontier of early 19th century Middle Tennessee. We are going to explore a structure that stands as a silent witness to a harsh pioneer era, the boyhood home of one of the Civil War's most aggressive military figures, Confederate cavalryman Lieutenant General Nathan Bedford Forrest. During the Civil War, Forrest acquired a reputation of invincibility among both his own men and the enemy. He always enjoyed the respect and begrudging admiration of his opponents. This was perhaps best illustrated by the sobriquet, "That Devil Forrest," frequently applied to him by General Sherman. Sherman elaborated, quote, "He had never read a military book in his life, knew nothing about tactics, could not even drill a company, but he had a genius for strategy, which was original and to me incomprehensible. There was no theory or art of war by which I could calculate with any degree of certainty what Forrest was up to. He always seemed to know what I was doing or intended to do," unquote. But this is not a story about the Civil War per se. It is a story about the untamed American frontier, an architectural style born of pure necessity, and how a pioneer family carved a life out of the unforgiving wilderness, resulting in the backbone of a famous military tactician. So settle in, close your eyes, and let's travel back to the 1820s and learn about the home that was the genesis for an aggressive military commander whose tactics are still taught to this day, over 160 years later. To truly understand the environment that shaped this family, we must first start our journey about 5 miles away from the boyhood home, right in the small hamlet of Chapel Hill, Tennessee. It was here, on July 13th, 1821, that Nathan Bedford Forrest was born into a middle-class settler family. His parents, William and Miriam Beck Forrest, lived in a highly secluded, single-room frontier cabin deep in the Tennessee backwoods. If you were to travel to that exact birthplace site today, however, you would not find the rustic log structure where the Forrest family first started. The original cabin has long since been lost to time and the elements. Today, if you stand on that site, located roughly 5 miles east of the preserved boyhood home, there is only a solitary stone monument. A simple obelisk stands quietly on the grounds, serving as a permanent historical marker, indicating where the original cabin once stood. It is a quiet, empty space that leaves the harsh realities of their early frontier existence entirely up to the imagination. But if we travel just a few miles down the road, moving away from that simple stone marker, we find something remarkable that did survive. Standing in the backwoods near Chapel Hill is a historic log house. To the untrained eye, it might just look like an ordinary rustic cabin. But this home is a highly unique and incredibly well-preserved example of Tennessee folk architecture. Originally built in the 1820s by a man named W.S. Mayfield, the property was purchased in 1830 by William Forrest, who worked as a local blacksmith. At the time of the purchase, his oldest son, Bedford, was just 9 years old. The Forrest family, William, Miriam, and their ever-growing brood of children, would live in this rugged home for 3 incredibly formative years, from 1830 until 1833. Let's mentally walk up to the house and examine its construction, because the craftsmanship is extraordinarily rare and tells us exactly how rural frontier craftsmen adapted to their demanding environment. Unlike the wealthy planters in the more settled sections of Tennessee who built their estates with imported brick or refined frame lumber, the rural craftsmen of the 1820s relied strictly on what the land provided. The Forrest boyhood home actually consists of 2 separate, distinct log structures. When you look closely at the exterior walls, you will notice they are constructed of massive, native cedar logs. These logs were not simply felled and stacked. They were meticulously hand-hewn and split, and then locked together using a complex, highly durable technique known as half-dovetail notching. This specific architectural notching style allowed rainwater to naturally drain away from the corners, preventing the heavy wood from rotting over the decades. But the wide gaps between these massive cedar logs could not just be left open to the bitter winter winds of the Duck River region. The builders employed an intricate, highly effective chinking method. They tightly packed the spaces between the logs with small, jagged pieces of local limestone and then expertly daubed them with a thick, insulating lime-clay mixture. If we were to step inside the original structure and climb up to the attic, the dark, drafty sleeping loft where young Bedford and his siblings would have huddled together for warmth, we would see an absolute architectural anomaly. Look up at the roof structure. The rafters are entirely made of raw cedar poles, and they are simply joined at the apex with wooden pegs. Noticeably absent is a ridge pole, the heavy horizontal timber that traditionally runs along the highest peak of a roof in almost all pioneer construction. Instead, the builders used purlins made of vertically sawn slabs of unbarked cedar to support the wooden roof covering. It is an incredibly rustic, yet structurally ingenious method of framing that has miraculously stood the test of time. Moving back outside, look down at the foundation. The massive stone steps leading to the entrance, the heavy, imposing chimneys, and the dry-laid foundation itself are all constructed from a very hard, cherty limestone native to the area. This dense, flint-like stone visually and literally anchors the house, making it look as though it sprouted directly from the bedrock of Middle Tennessee itself. The Forrest family's time in this home was defined by sheer survival, hard labor, and determination. In 1833, seeking better opportunities, William Forrest sold the Chapel Hill property to a man named Stephen W. Rainey. The Forrests packed their belongings and moved further south, eventually settling in Salem, Mississippi, in 1834. Tragically, William Forrest died just a few years later in 1837, leaving 16-year-old Bedford as the primary caretaker of his mother and his large family. The grit and resilience required to survive that loss were forged during those early years in Marshall County. But what happened to that original Tennessee home after the Forrests left it behind? When the Rainey family purchased the Chapel Hill property in 1833, they brought a new era of prosperity and expansion to the structure. Instead of tearing down the old log cabins to build something modern, they expanded them, a very common practice in Tennessee folk architecture as pioneer families gradually gained wealth. The Raineys built a frame addition that functioned as a central connector, seamlessly linking the two original log structures together into a single cohesive dwelling. They also refined the rough interior. If you walk through the ground floor today, you won't just see the rough-hewn cedar of William Forrest's era. You will see elegant paneling and decorative wood mantels that the Rainey family added in the late 1830s. If you look closely at the ground floor ceiling joists in the two-story wing, you will notice they are delicately beaded along their lower margins, a touch of surprising, refined elegance hidden inside what was once a raw frontier log house. For over a century, the house remained a private residence, silently holding the history of the families who passed through its doors. In the late 20th century, recognizing its highly unique architectural heritage, the property was preserved. The log and frame structure which still stands on this property is the only home still existing associated with Forrest. Today, the home is owned and preserved by the sons of Confederate veterans. The home and grounds sit quietly behind a black metal gate and stand as a weathered monument to a tough frontier and pioneer past. The boyhood home of Nathan Bedford Forrest is far more than just a footnote in history. It is a brilliant masterclass in pioneer craftsmanship. From its hand-hewn cedar logs down to its cherty limestone foundation, its firm construction has stood the test of time in preserving the memory of a tough-as-nails military genius with humble frontier roots. This unique architecture is definitely a Civil War rarity, and we thank you for joining us today.
All right, Bill, so what do you think?
I think he lived a pretty good life. That cabin wasn't a mansion back then, but that was still pretty nice, pretty considering what a lot of people lived in.
Yeah, and you know, it's when you look at where he was born, obviously the place that Forrest was born is gone. It's been destroyed. It's no longer there. So you like to think that for those first 9 years they lived in a little gentler home, and now they moved up. So the boyhood home that you can go to now is a step up from where Forrest was actually born. He was a little kid.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's nice. I mean, that's, the 1830s. My dad was born in 1937 and I wouldn't have believed him and didn't kind of believe him when he first told me about it until I saw a picture. But my dad spent the first 4 or 5 years of his life in a sod house in central Nebraska.
Really? Sod house?
Sod house. There's a picture of him, his brother, and my grandparents, his parents standing out in front of it, and you can literally see the laid sod on the sides of it, looking like bricks, but it's big clumps of dirt. And he has talked about bugs and dirt falling out of the ceiling and landing on them while they're asleep, and a hand pump inside for their running water, and the privy out in the back or the outhouse, and the Sears and Roebuck catalog out there. It wasn't for reading pleasure; it was used for something else. So yeah, kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's my in-laws. They have a house that was built in 1860, and obviously it wasn't a sod house. It was a farmhouse, actually farmers for a doctor. So it was a step up from the sod. However, it was really only 40 years after this house was built. So if I ever go down to the basement and I look up, I can see some of the similarities in the architecture. The woodworking, really, that is lost now. Stick houses.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, you probably can see the tool marks from, the hand tools. And I mean, we're talking hand tools, not power saws and, the little circular saw and your battery powered DeWalt drill, to punch the holes in the wood and stuff. I mean, real craftsmanship, real work.
I'm glad that, so the Sons of Confederate Veterans owns this house. When they took it over, it was very dilapidated, and they put a lot of TLC and a lot of money into it. And they open it up once a year for the Forrest Homecoming, which I highly recommend if you guys are in the area or make a little trip to go out and see the house. It's really good. The SCV has reenactors. They have cavalry and artillery that also go on, and of course tons of stuff to buy things. But fantastic. You get a chance to see the inside of the house. My pictures really didn't do it justice for this, but recommend you go out there. If you really just want to go out there and it's not during that time, you'd have to call, request it. They do have a caretaker, and he can come out and open it for you. But you're going to be obviously schedule dependent.
Yeah, the other thing is it's not just the only place that you can go visit. You got the Sam Davis House in Smyrna, also just for giggles, you have the Polk House in Columbia.
That's correct.
And so the former president. So another place to go visit.
And it's one thing that's mentioned. The house now is how it looks now. A little different than when Forrest was, but we did touch on in the video that we mentioned that Forrest was actually from a middle class family. People see the rustic cabin and they think, oh, he's poor, he's a dirt farmer and whatnot. And that's not the case, because his father was a blacksmith. And in 1840, 1820, 1860, that is just what you need. Horse wagons, you name it. That's the guy who can fix that, especially if he's really good.
The cool thing is watching a real blacksmith work. They are artisans, not just an artisan, but they're craftsmen, and it's really, really interesting watching those guys. I mean, they can make and fix just about anything.
Yeah, and speaking of that, please make sure you all tune in next month, because next month we're going to talk about a little bit of wagon and engineering. We're going to discuss the Rosecrans ambulance and how that changed warfare in some aspect that you really don't think about. Definitely a rarity in ambulance and saving some lives.
Yep. Listen, go out and find a round table in your area. Go out and visit them. They great programs, I'm sure. Also, take a look at your lineage organization, Sons of Union Veterans and Sons of Confederate Veterans. Join them and participate. Get out there and be a part of history.
That's right.
Thanks, Bill, and thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys next month.
All right.
Have a good one.
See y'all.
Thank you for watching and supporting Civil War Rarities. We hope to see you again soon for our next episode.